Hey guys, Terry Barga here, and I just had the honor of being on the Root of All Success podcast with the Real Jason Duncan. And let me just tell you that no matter where you're at in entrepreneurial, you're in your journey, whether you've achieved success or you're still looking for some good momentum, you're in the right place. You're listening to a very wise man and bringing on very great guests. So do yourself a favor, take notes, and be actionable with the information that you gather from this show.
Welcome to the Root of All Success with the Real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs unlocked success and how their stories can help you do the same. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason has built multi-million-dollar businesses that have been featured in Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine. His life's mission now is helping entrepreneurs live what he calls #the exit lifestyle. Introducing TEDx speaker, mastermind leader, author, entrepreneur, cigar aficionado, motorcycle enthusiast, and host of the Root of All Success, the Real Jason Duncan. The Real Jason Duncan.
So Terry, what do you think about Ozempic? Should people be taking this stuff to lose weight?
You just rip the Band-Aid right off of things, don't you? I have thoughts.
So let me set this up. I don't know how many people know about this.
Yeah.
But I only recently, probably within the last 3-6 months somewhere, I ran into a friend. He looked great. And he was never overweight, but he looked really good working out. And I said, man, like you're looking good. He goes, and he didn't say Ozempic. He said whatever the actual drug name. What is the drug name?
Oh,
It's a weird name. It's hard to remember.
Semaglutide?
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. He goes, that's my best friend. I said, what? And he told me about what it was, and I said, okay. And then it just floated out my brain. And then 2-3 days later, somebody else said something. So then I looked it up, and then it was a couple months before I realized it was Ozempic that they're talking about, which is a diabetes drug, right?
Correct. Yeah, and there are a few different brands outside of Ozempic. I don't want to pick on it specifically. My problem with it is the same problem any trainer has about something that feels like a shortcut, right? I spent 20 years in this business, and nothing really replaces hard work and consistency.
Yeah.
Tracking knowledge, like accumulating knowledge about your body and what to put in it over time, and being consistent over time, right? Like, so there are things that'll come out that will promise, and some deliver. I don't think Ozempic's not delivering on this. I mean, they're selling a way around, and I don't have a problem with a shortcut as long as something is gained in that matter of time, like some sort of education. Mm-hmm. So, there are side effects, and the side effects are numerous. There are starting to be stories out about the side effects and how dangerous those are. For me as a trainer, it becomes really hard to help somebody gain muscle when their appetite's being suppressed so much that they're not taking in the nutrients to actually put that muscle on.
Yeah.
In essence, they're paying me to tell them what to do, even though they're only listening to about 20% of it. In that case, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the hard part for me. That's not everybody. Can't blanket statement that, right? It is going to help a lot of people who are in a tight spot, who've tried just about everything, not get the ball rolling. And I think using something like that to get the ball rolling is where your head should be. But if you're having a hard time coming off of it because you're worried about putting the weight back on, which is a valid fear, you won't have that issue if you graduate and start to wean yourself off, and then we're paying attention to what we're eating. Right? And then we're making sure that we're hitting the gym, we're building some muscle. Otherwise, the cycle will repeat itself. And then what damage did we do in the process?
So Ozempic, and the drug behind it, which neither of us can remember how to say the name, but the whole idea is it's a fantastic appetite suppressant. That's really all it is.
Correct.
I mean, I know it has effects evidently for the diabetic population.
Correct.
Which are not related to weight loss, but that's all it does.
Yeah.
You don't want to eat as much. And is it so good in that effect that one dose you're like, I'm not hungry for a day? Like, how does that work? I don't know much about it.
I can't tell you exactly from it, because I think it varies from person to person. But from what I can gather from a few of the clients that I know that are on it, and I've got a few buddies that are on it too, and the cases are different, right? The client that I have on it should be off of it. On it for a while, lost the weight, got to where he wanted to be, and now he's kind of addicted to the feeling of losing more weight, and also worried about putting it all back on, which he shouldn't be. He's in the leadership of a trainer, right?
Yeah.
I got buddies that were pre-diabetic and diabetic that were on it, and for them, it's a little bit different. It took them a little while, a few doses, maybe a couple weeks before they started feeling the difference of wanting to eat less. For them, they're not under the care of, a nutritionist or a personal trainer. Their numbers are pretty, or in a different spot. For them, this actually is what the drug's for.
Yeah.
Right? So it's invented for those type of people.
How are these people getting it?
That's
like, if you don't have, it's prescription drug.
Yeah, it's a prescription drug. And you have to basically just have a recommendation from your doctor. And some people are getting it. It's very expensive too.
Oh, really?
It's like $1,500, $12 to $1,500 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So I just don't like the stigma that's like, I don't know, here's your fast pass to get to the front of the line with health and fitness. When it's selling a false narrative of that this is sustainable and maintainable. That's the bummer, right? Because that person will come off and put all that weight back on.
Yeah.
What if some organs don't operate the way they used to? What if there's some gut issues?
Yeah, that's the thing. That is not the only reason why I'm not doing it, but as I was introduced to it conceptually, as I explained from a friend of mine, I thought, okay, that's pretty interesting, but this is really new. Let's wait a year or two to see what happens. Because back in the day, this is probably 20 years ago, maybe more than 20 years ago. What was that drug? It was Fin.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, I had family members that took it and lost a ton of weight.
Very similar story, though.
But then it came out that, I don't know what it was doing, it was destroying their livers or something. What was it?
I don't know if I remember exactly either. They equated it to meth, the same type of people were developing some of the same type of problems that they would if they were addicted.
Well,
to
meth's a good weight loss drug too.
So I hear.
And teeth loss drug.
all the things. Family loss, job loss. We could go on.
You didn't lose anything? Meth. Well, we're talking with Terry Barga today on the Root of All Success podcast, and he is your fitness expert. He is the mastermind behind Nashville Fit Magazine, which I'm showing a copy of right here. So for those of you watching this on YouTube, you can see Nashville Fit Magazine. And he puts on the Music City Fit Expo, which is a big event here in the Nashville area for people in the fitness industry. So you've been in this a long time, Terry. How many years have you been doing fitness?
I've been doing fitness for just about 20 years.
20 years. That's a long time being in this industry. Have you always been into fitness? I mean, you're a fit guy, obviously. You work out. You look good without your shirt off. So that's the kind of the thing, right?
I always joke that I'm just trying to impress my wife.
That's right. Well, I think it probably works.
If I can catch a good look or a glance every once in a while, like, sweet.
So have you always been, like, from teenager all the way through adulthood into fitness and working out?
No, my story actually is quite opposite than how you hear from a lot of trainers. And this is a fine way to get into the industry, but I did not get into the industry like most guys did. I got in the industry in my early 20s. I did it from a lack of being able to find anybody who could actually tell me what it took to put on muscle. Like, what do I have to eat to match my activity level to help me put on muscle? I was 140 pounds. I'm right around 6 foot. My kids will tell you that I'm not 6 foot. And I couldn't gain weight to save my life.
Really?
Couldn't.
I don't know what that feels like.
I hear that a lot. So I was on a mission to, I want to put muscle on. And I just couldn't I would find guys, I'd gravitate towards the biggest guy in the room and I'd ask him the questions. And I just never could get anywhere. And I was at this point in my life when I was like, you know what, I'm just going to get certified and I'm going to go learn it myself. I'm going to hunt it down. I was working full-time as a landscape manager at that time, and I wanted to start my own business anyway. I learned a lot from the owner of that business that I was working with at that time, Jim and Renee Chase. I owe a lot to those two. But I was like, I'm just gonna get certified. You know what? I'm gonna get certified, and once I get certified, maybe I'll start training folks. And that's how I got into the industry. Didn't get into it from sports in high school. I was homeschooled. I was one of the weirdos that was homeschooled. I spent a large part of my latter years in my teens working full time. I worked a lot. I would do my homeschool when I got done working, and I didn't have any time for sports. So I didn't really have that traditional high school experience that a lot of people did. So yeah, I was 23, 22 and a half when I got certified. And I went out on my own. I was 24, almost 25 years old.
So some early mid-20s, you get involved in the fitness industry out of a personal desire to be fit. And you obviously you're not 140 anymore. You put the weight on, you put the muscle on like that you wanted, the bulk that you needed. So
and I took a dive down the rabbit trail of nutrition, which if you know anybody who's in nutrition who does it for a hobby, they'll tell you the more you know, the more you don't know, right? And you just keep digging and digging and digging and digging. And that's how I was able to reset my metabolism to actually start putting on weight.
Really?
It's through nutrition.
So what's one nutrition fact that most people don't know?
You're probably not eating enough.
Not eating enough, like quantity? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Or frequency?
I would almost always tell every client, like, usually they come with for the last 2 decades, I would have them come with their first week of food written out, right? And it's just so surprising to me how the body adapts to you not feeding it well by storing everything. And typically people have unwanted weight because they're not eating to match their activity level, right? Like the government guide for that, it was 1,600 calories. It's now 2,000 calories a day. That's what the government recommends. It's the FDA, right?
For the average
average active adult. And I find that to be pretty roughly the average. Most people are around 1,100 calories.
Really?
There are very few people that are above that number.
How can that be?
It's crazy.
I was at the Dairy Queen drive-thru the other day. Not that I'm confessing any sins, but I was there, and one of their dishes is called the Peanut Butter Parfait. I used to love these as a kid. I haven't had one in, I don't know, 20, 30 years. And I noticed the calories on that one thing, 1,760 calories.
Nearly your daily need.
In one dessert, which is delicious. I haven't had it in a long time. I want it. And if it didn't have the calorie thing, I probably would have ordered it.
Sure.
But I don't believe you that people are only doing 1,100. That just seems insanely low. One meal could be 1,100 at a fast food restaurant.
100%. And that's actually one of the reasons why I like a Chipotle burrito, because I intake roughly 3,000 calories a day. And I could get away with a burrito because it's going to get me a third of the way there, right? It's a lot of calories. The difference is this. So, and I will give you a little context on that level. Some people are out there eating that stuff. They'll feel guilty and they won't eat the rest of the day. So there's that, right? Yep. You're like, well, I'll overcorrect. Some people only eat what I would call empty calories, or the Dairy Queen's a really good example. They're only eating the empty calories, therefore they're not getting the nutrients. And when that's in play, then it's like a nutrition desert. Like you're not getting the right macros. So the body will also still hold on to that, right? So that right there is an overeating scenario. You know, you don't eat, then you hit the fast food joint and then you overeat, right? So there's that element too.
When you say overeat, you're talking calories.
That in this case,
not amount of food, quantity of food. You're talking about quantity of calories.
Quantity of calories, and then the extension to that problem is that those calories are devout of actual nutrient density. Right. Like if you're not eating nutrient dense food, then you're not aiding the body in its ability to do what it needs to do or wants to do, which is heal, right? And whether you want to lose weight or gain weight, the only path to either of those things is through your hormones. So if your hormones aren't operating ideally like they should be, and they will when they have the proper fuel, then you can't control your weight, period.
Yeah.
It all goes through the hormones. So if we can find a way to balance the hormones with nutrition, great. If you can't do it through nutrition, or I've had this with clients too, like you're actually doing a pretty good job of hitting the nutrition across the board.
Yeah.
Well, what else is messing with the hormones? Could be overworking. If you're working too hard, your job's super stressful, you could be dealing with something called adrenal fatigue. You're not sleeping very well. You're in that fight or flight mentality all day long because you're really good at solving problems and people know it, so they keep bringing you problems, right? That will affect someone's weight negatively as well. But again, it's doing that because it's sparking cortisol and it's staying spiked and your adrenals just wear out. So your body doesn't care whether you're eating right or not. Doesn't care if you're exercising. It's trying to figure out how to mediate your stress level. And it can't do that until it can calm that hormone down.
So my personal story is that I've carried extra weight pretty much my whole life. I don't know how much extra weight, but just extra weight. But I have lost over 20 pounds in the last year or so.
Nice work.
And I am finally I never liked to work out ever in my life. I never, as a kid, I didn't exercise. Now I would play sports. I used to, as an adult, I'd play racquetball 3 or 4 times a week, and that was my only working out. But over the last 2 years, I have fallen in love with walking and bicycle riding.
Oh, nice.
And so every morning, 4 days a week, Wednesday's the only day I don't, weekdays. Wednesday's the only weekday I don't do it because I have a coffee meeting early in the morning, so I can't.
Sure.
But I get up in the morning, first thing I do is I put on my stuff and I either go walk through 3.5 miles, or I go ride my bike 6 or 8 miles. Love it, absolutely love it. And I think that has helped me. But
yeah.
I'm like plateaued at 199 pounds. I haven't been under 200 in almost 30 years. But I finally got under 200, and I got a 1 in the first digit.
Congratulations.
So I'm like, that feels great.
I know what that feels like.
But I want to be 185 because that's what I weighed when I graduated high school.
Okay.
And I know that's still heavy I'm 5'10", so I know that's still technically heavy, but I think it suits me.
Sure.
I think if I lost down to 160 or 165, I think I would look sick. I've seen people lose weight, and I'm like, ooh, you look sick.
Too far, yeah.
It's too far, but it's within the range. Right. So, but here I am. I still have the gut. I still have the love handles. Can't figure out how to get rid of that. So how would somebody like me, I'm relatively active. I'm not like you. I'm sure you work out every day all the time, but like I'm fairly active. I don't have a super stressful life. Yeah. I eat pretty decent, notwithstanding the Dairy Queen comment earlier. Like I eat pretty decent. I do eat my fair share of fast food because I'm out on the road. But what does somebody like me do to get to a successful plan without taking Ozempic?
Well, this is a little bit of a blanket statement, so you have to bear with me. The first thing you're going to want to do is be consistent. So eating out isn't a huge deal as long as that's not your normal. If your normal is locked in, right? Like you're drinking half your body weight in ounces of water a day. You're trying to make sure that this is a blanket carb, like this is blanket macros for you. Your carbohydrates are from a complex source, right? You want to be able to hit, I don't know, you should be between 180 and 200 grams of complex carbohydrates a day.
And what does that mean?
A complex carbohydrate is, it's easier to tell you what a simple carb is. Like a simple carb is usually white bread.
Right. Don't eat a lot of that.
Anything in a sugar source, typically anything processed sugar. Processed sugar, processed flour is about the best way to say simple carb.
Okay.
So if you can deviate away from the process.
So baked potato is a complex carb?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a simple carb. I know it used to catch a bad rap. It's not going to make you fat.
Good. I love baked potatoes. I love potatoes about all kinds except vodka. I don't like vodka.
Well, sure. Yeah, I'm not there either. Definitely not that guy. A lot of people think that because I'm saying complex carbohydrates, they can't have bread. Bread has come a long way. Good example, sourdough bread is a complex carbohydrate. Why? Because it's soured. How is it soured? It's infused with a culture. That culture eats the sugars in the bread. Now that complex or that simple carb now becomes complicated because it's pre-digested. That's the difference. It comes with the enzymes to help deliver the nutrients. That would be the difference. So that's how you define whether, one from the other. If your buns from McDonald's can sit outside and the bugs don't want them and they don't grow mold, that's a problem. Right? It's a problem.
Yes.
I saw somebody take apart a drumstick on Instagram the other day. Like, you remember the drumsticks, the chocolate covered, like the ice cream cone?
Yeah.
Literally used to love going to my grandma's house to get one of these. They let it sit out and it never melted.
That is funny about those, isn't it?
And that made me so sad.
It's very peculiar why they don't melt.
Yeah, that made me so sad.
Well, you know, there's a difference just in ice cream in general. You know, ice cream, like what we all know is ice cream, will not melt as fast as like frozen custard. Frozen
Correct.
custard would melt. Does that mean custard is technically
I wish.
slightly better? But no.
I wish possibly the difference is, and this is going to bum out a lot of people because I love ice cream too. But your ice cream has a food grade or an edible antifreeze in it.
Yep.
So it helps it have that soft texture so that it's not rock hard when you get it. Take that for what it's worth. Do your own research. The cleaner the ice cream you can get, the better. If it starts melting as soon as you take it out, that's a great sign. If you can make it at home, do that.
Yeah, I love homemade ice cream.
Yeah, I do too.
I do it a couple times a year, and homemade banana ice cream is my favorite.
And it tastes so much better.
It does. It
But-
got a lot of sugar in it, though.
Sure, there's that part.
Got a lot of sugar.
So if you can avoid processed foods in general, can't pronounce it, don't eat it. If you can't make it in your kitchen, or you can't picture it being made in your kitchen, like when you're reading some of these ingredients, just do a good job of trying to avoid that. But hit your primary macros, your 3, right? Your complex carbohydrates, your fats, and then your protein. And you want to just get the most deliverable versions of those nutrients as you can, right? Too much protein powder, it's going to bloat you. It's going to end up being a process on the body to digest and move through. Protein takes a little while to digest.
Yeah.
But you do need it, and especially if you want to build muscle. So your protein and your complex carbohydrates can be roughly about the same. Same meaning about 185 to 195 grams. I would say for you specifically. You want to get pretty close to where you want to be with your ideal body weight. Just making those 2 changes and then knowing how much you're burning in a day. The reason why I take in 3,000 calories is because on average I'm burning 3,400 to 3,600 calories in a given day. So I'm just under. And those days that I know that I'm not that active, like I'm not running around like crazy, it could be a Saturday or Sunday and it's just more chill, I won't hit that number. I won't hit 3,000 calories of 2,500. I'll relax a little bit.
How many calories does the average person burn just living, like without doing anything other than just normal life?
Well, another crazy fun fact is the bigger you are, the more you naturally burn.
Right.
We've had a couple of really big guys at a few of our retreats. When you do you can track this on your Apple Watch. Would you look at what they're burning on an average day? It's like, I've seen guys burning 8,000 calories, like 5,000 calories. And it's just to move that giant body around.
Wow.
We think that all that fat or excess equals no muscle. Well, there's a little truth to the fact that they need the muscle to move the body.
Right.
So they may not be moving fluently, they may not feel fit, but there's more muscle there. And that body requires more to move that big mass around. And it blows me away to see the calories. Because we can get pretty close. Like I can get 3,500 calories in that person, and they're gonna feel pretty full. Especially if we change the makeup of those calories. And they're not empty like they would be at a fast food restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
They actually feel fuller, eating less, and their weight starts to drop.
So is your primary philosophy around fitness based primarily in nutrition, or is it balanced with physical exercise, or what would you say?
I would say for me, it leans a lot towards nutrition. It's almost always the reason. It's rarely ever your lack of activity. Rarely. I will say that does play a role. And they're like faders on I say faders like people know what that is nowadays. When we were kids in the radio in the car.
When the equalizer actually had physical buttons you had to move up and down.
That's what I'm talking about. Know the audience. You can adjust that based on what I know they're doing. So as far as consistency is concerned, when I talk to a client who's having a hard time, I'll find out what they're doing the most consistently. If they're working out the most consistently and their weight's not dropping, their inches aren't going down, their body fat's not reducing, that's usually a pretty good indicator that maybe we need to change some stuff up in the diet realm.
Yeah.
If they're hitting the nutrition numbers spot on, maybe we make the workout harder, right? Or maybe we encourage a rest day of absolutely nothing. When your high achievers don't want to do that. fitness becomes a box to check in order to be sane. You know, so it's where they go that they can actually control the hour.
How many days of physical activity do you recommend for the average person?
3.
3. Okay, good. I'm ahead of the average because
I'm definitely ahead of the average.
I do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, most weeks.
Yeah.
Like I get up and walk, and I have found, and this is coming from somebody that hated it. You remember that book that came out? Golly, it's probably been 15 years ago, called The Power of 10.
Yes.
It was this workout where it's 10-second reps up, 10, and so it was very
slow.
slow.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where I came up with it, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to commit a year to this. And so I did it not every day, but every week for a year. Hated every second of it. That's the only time in my life I ever worked out consistently. Hated every second of it. I got much stronger.
I bet.
Didn't lose any weight. I could hit a racquetball. I could kill people with a racquetball. But I hated every second, so I quit. Well, as someone who's always hated working out, man, walking and riding my bicycle, I don't know what happened, but man, it clicked, and now I'm not addicted, but it's a habit, and I miss it when I don't do it.
Yes.
And for me too, I get time. It's time with God. Like I spend those 3.5 miles. It's about 45 minutes, just talking to God, talking about life, doing my affirmations, praying. Like it's fantastic. I love it.
And I would agree to that. I think there's a lot of people that don't know that there's a little bit of a release there. Like, especially, I equate this to running and definitely walking, and I guess you could say it about riding too. Is you think if you do this without music, and you could do it with music too. I don't think it changes anything, but you think all your thoughts. You think you done processed your day, and you're still working out. Now you have an empty brain, and I think that's a great place for inspiration, a great place for the Lord to speak to you.
Yeah.
Like I fully subscribe to that. Like for me to get time to work out is a way to get alone with my thoughts with the Lord. I come back, I will often work out with a notepad close by because something will come to my brain while I'm working out. Fresh inspiration, and it immediately goes on the notepad. And then I'll circle back to it later, and I'll just keep working out. And that's how a lot of things have been born.
Great thoughts. I've already solved world's problems, and I just never wrote them down.
Right. Because everything's running and everything's operating in a good spot. You thought all your thoughts. You're not like trying to multitask, doing a zillion different things.
Well, I also listen. I carry my earbuds in my pocket with me every time I leave, and probably about 30% of the time I'll pop them in and I'll listen. I listen to a lot of books.
Yeah.
And YouTube videos, and I'll just listen, and it's very cathartic. It's good. I walk when the weather's not nice, because it's too cold to ride. When it gets under 50 degrees, it's very cold to ride a bicycle.
Oh yeah.
So 50 and above, I usually ride the bicycle. But I think I believe, I don't know if this is true, but I believe I get more benefit from the walking than the bicycle riding, even though I ride the bike much longer, further than I do walking. Is that true?
I think they both have their place. The big difference to all of this is that you hear this when you talk to a trainer. If you're listening to this and you're like, well, my trainer says progressive overload. Yes, progressive overload. Progressive overload is just the same thing we do with that we think in the professional world is smart, right? You continue to challenge yourself because the body will get used to things. It's adaptive. It's actually amazing how quick it adapts. So yes, you can get both things. Both things have a ton of value. But I think walking gets a bad rap because it can shape you, right?
What does that mean?
Well, like the human body, we used to walk 20 miles a day.
Yeah.
Before the industrialization of this country, when I say shape you, I mean like excess body weight, like inches will come off. I've seen it. I've seen it actually slim folks.
Yeah, my clothes are all bigger than they were. I've had some jackets I've had to get rid of. They're just too big. All my pants are not very loose, but they're much looser.
Yeah.
I've had some shorts that I've had to throw away. I don't know that, I don't pay attention to the actual measurement, but just knowing what waist size I wear and where I'm at now, I've seen it happen. And really the only primary thing I've done is just walking and riding the bike. My diet didn't change a ton. Although I did do a month of no additional sugars last year. It was actually pretty easy. Other than ice cream, because I love ice cream. I realized I don't really take that much processed sugar in, which was interesting.
It's great.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if I went to a fast food restaurant, I'd eat whatever's in the fast food thing, and I'm sure there's processed sugar in it. So I wasn't a legalist about it, but I didn't eat candy bars. I didn't get ice cream. I didn't eat cake. I didn't eat any of the processed stuff.
Sure.
And it was fairly easy, other than not getting ice cream.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur, I know that you have to deal with sales on a regular basis. I mean, every entrepreneur does. And if you aren't paying attention to sales as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be an entrepreneur for very long. But I've got a sponsor of this show called Dub that helps you bring the personal back to sales. If you want to figure out how to improve content creation, improve client trust, improve your sales process, decrease the sales cycle, because we all know time kills deals. If you want to increase client bookings and increase conversions, you need to take a look at Dub. There's a special offer for Dub for listeners to The Root of All Success at therealjasonduncan.com/Dub, and that's DUBB. What Dub does, I've been using this for years. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so honored that they're our primary sponsor of the podcast. But they have helped over 60,000 businesses around the world communicate better, to make sales easier, to make sales more personal. And Dub is built for growing teams. I mean, you can set up video emails, you can set up custom onboarding, you can do admin reporting, anything you need around video and sales and automation. Dub is there. You can try Dub now. Your conversions to sales are waiting. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And there you're going to get 2 weeks for free to try Dub. Plus, you're going to get 50% off your first 2 months of Dub. You can't beat that. So go check it out. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
I would say so my wife and I are different with this stuff. I don't like desserts. I don't love them. Now, if she'll make them, and she usually makes them better for me, I'll eat them, but I'm not on the hunt.
Yeah.
Right? She's completely different. She is sweets and bread. Like, that is her jam.
Yeah, your wife and I would get along.
Yeah, it's just...
I used to, and I don't say it anymore because I believe in the power of your words, but I used to believe that I had a sweet tooth. And so today I deny that. And so, but that is my history. And so I'm trying to change that about me. But I do enjoy a little sweet at the end of a meal. Mm-hmm. You know, just even if it's just a little something to kind of, you know, at the end.
Have a little dark chocolate with a little bourbon.
Oh, of course.
I mean, don't get me started. That's like my favorite pairing. But yeah, to kind of, you know, I hope that simplified that enough for folks. Like, it doesn't have to be that difficult. You do need to know what you're bringing in. Your fuel source is important. With your fitness, continue to challenge yourself. And if your nutrition's not working and you got all the things dialed in, find a way to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
That could be no sugar for a month.
Yeah,
it
I need
could
to
be
do that again.
Vegetarian for a month. It could be a 3-day juice fast. Like, there are ways to continue to challenge the body and to push it and to knock it.
What are your thoughts about these, you know, there's paleo, and there's keto, and there's whatever. There's always something new and different. Yeah. But what do you have thoughts about one of those being better than the other, or do you subscribe to any of them?
Well, that's a tough question. I don't necessarily subscribe, but I don't want to make that sound like I don't think they have their place. My idea is, and I've said this for years, is that if you're a whole food based diet, right? Your diet comes from actual occurring real whole foods, right? Processed stuff is over here. And you can still hit your macros. I don't care what you do, right? Like, your macros are important. God put carbohydrates on this earth for a reason. You do need energy. If you can get out of them, if you can challenge yourself with keto, or you can challenge yourself with paleo, or any of those things, and you can use it for a little bit of a kick in the pants, then do that. Sustainability, don't think it's sustainable. Yeah. Nor do I think you should try to make it sustainable. You want to get to the spot where you actually enjoy eating and you have a little freedom to go get an ice cream cone, right? You don't want to be legalistic about it, because then you're living and dying by it. And it becomes a labor, and it's not really fun.
I've got one of my best friends. He is paleo and has been for 20 years. and
I know a few people
he
like that, too.
lost. He was pretty overweight. I don't know how many pounds he lost, but it was a bunch,
Yeah.
a whole bunch, and he's maintained it this entire time. And they're the only people I know out of everybody I've ever met that ever stuck to any of those.
Yeah.
I call it fad diet. That's not what I mean. I'm not trying to be
Just
derogatory.
style, yeah.
But that style,
Yeah.
he's the only one that maintained it and committed to it. And we just spent a week with them last week down in Jacksonville. Went over to their house a couple times and had dinner. And it's a lot of meat. So we had some great picanha beef, which was phenomenal, and some roasted potatoes and some salad, and and we had pork chops and some asparagus. Like if somebody would cook that for me, I'd eat that all the time.
All the time.
I got no problem with that.
No problem.
But
Yeah.
but the no bread thing, that's like, come on. Every once in a while, I gotta have bread. I want a piece of bread. I like it, but I don't crave it.
You gotta let yourself live a little. Yeah, that's the toughest part about this industry is that we've commercialized things that people just need to know for the general health, and that part bums me out. We've made it a product.
Everything's productized.
Monetized it. Yeah, it's like it is a thing, and I just want to give this information away.
So speaking of giving information away, so you are an entrepreneur now in the fitness space. What with Nashville Fit Magazine, and then with the Music City Fit Expo, tell us about how that's going in terms of your entrepreneurial journey. How did you get into this?
Great question. I have to preface all of this by saying I cannot take the credit for the ground up building of Nashville Fit Magazine or the Expo. We saw an opportunity, we jumped on it. As an entrepreneur in the fitness, I've always been a scrapper in the entrepreneurial world, if that makes any sense. Like, if I needed it, I built it. If I needed to find the money for something, I would go find a way to raise it. Not usually investors. Like, I would go do an odd job, build a carport for somebody or some shelves. Grew up in the trades. My dad taught me how to turn a screwdriver, put a roof on, change a tire. Like, that stuff has bridged the gap for me in my entrepreneurial life. Like, it's helped me raise money to try to test products and do things, this, that, and the other. That's a good context to tell you that as a personal trainer, Nashville Fit Magazine came into town with one of my good friends, Ryan Freebing. He brought it from Austin, Texas. So its model was already done in Austin. And he brought it here and he launched it. In the process of him launching the magazine, I got to know him really well because he was really, really good at building community. So he'd hop around to all these gyms and he would just get to know everybody. He would be doing classes everywhere. And I kind of latched onto that and I was like, man, I feel a little bit convicted. Like, I want to do that stuff. I should be out of my own box and not just worried about my clientele. Like, the goal is to change people's lives, right? So let's all lock arms and do this, with a community mentality. And I saw that Ryan was doing that, and he was a really great leader in that. So he had the magazine, and out of the magazine, the Expo was launched. I think he started in 2015, maybe 2016. And we're just going to fast forward through a whole bunch of stuff. COVID happens. I'm actually doing consulting down the road here at a fitness retreat center. And I'm like, I wonder where Ryan went. And I just didn't see him or see anything posted on Nashville Fit Magazine. Like, we all love to follow Nashville Fit in the industry, right? And I met with him and he's like, no, I'm burnt out. I'm done. I was like, well, wait a second. You can't be done. The industry needs this. And we got to talking and we figured out he let us take over the Expo. He actually helped us on that first year. And then after we did the first Expo, I found the current owner of the magazine because he had sold it. And I offered to bring her on and also let us buy it. And that's how I got the magazine.
How long ago was that?
That was almost 2 full years ago.
So you post-COVID. Well, middle of the madness.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So a couple years ago, 2022 or so.
Right.
All right. So it's tail end of COVID. How's it going? Like, from a business standpoint, how's that going for you?
Better than I could have ever hoped.
Really?
Honestly, yeah.
Is it more ad based? Is that ad revenue based?
Well, what I knew, I'll do this quick. Having a print magazine is not an ideal business model because you're only going to make money on ads. And if you're only doing a magazine every other month or every quarter, like that was only coming out every quarter. When I got a hold of it, like, well, let's just start every 3 months, right? That's not, nobody can live off that money, right? That's not enough to do anything. Plus, what is the key factor that we learned from COVID is that you lose distribution for your magazine, you lose your whole business. If you can't put your magazine in gyms because gyms are shut down, like how are you going to overcome that? So my first goal was to make it COVID proof and bring in other revenue streams so that we weren't reliant on print alone. So for me specifically, there had to be an education part to the magazine. There had to be an entertainment part of the magazine. But then we also had to really dig into the marketing element. And you really can't dig into the marketing element in the fitness industry with businesses until you kind of get into structure and a little bit of business consulting, because a lot of people in the fitness industry aren't traditional business people, if that makes sense. It's a good trainer, and a good trainer with a good following typically thinks, and they're usually pretty right about this, that, hey, I could probably do this on my own. Problem is they get into their own facility and they're so busy they can't actually work on the business. They're too busy working in the business. So we find ourselves consulting a little bit with that as well. So we added revenue, to answer your question, we added revenue streams. We added different ways the business operates than just print. And that is what we launched. I launched that a year ago in June. It'll be 1 year. And I launched that platform, and that's what's blown my mind. Like, it's done so well that it's caught the attention of a few outside investors, and we've got plans where we think we can do this nationally, and we can tie them all back to the big event. It's been really, really mind-blowing, honestly.
So when you do congrats on that, by the way.
Hey, thanks.
Because that's not easy to do, and you did it. So on the Fit Expo that you do here in Nashville, Music City Fit Expo, what is that, like 3-day event?
Well, it's a 1-day event, and this is the last year it's a 1-day event. I know I think on the notes I put on there weekend, and that was a typo. It won't be a weekend event till next year, which we're already planning. It started off really, really small at Rocketown in downtown Nashville. And when we got it, we just did 2 years at Vanderbilt in their athletic center. So we knew that we could make it big. Mm-hmm. Ryan proved that concept. Well, we had a little bit of pent-up demand, so we knew that would kind of help that first year coming out of COVID, right? So we moved it to the Nashville Fairgrounds. And I think our first year we were at 50,000 square feet. But we were white-knuckling it. We had no idea if it was going to sink or swim. And we just went after it, and it blew us away. Like, it was great. But yeah, it will end up being a full-fledged. We call it the Arnold of the South. Our goal is to make it the Arnold of the South.
What's that?
The Arnold is probably, if not the biggest, the second biggest fitness expo in the country.
The Arnold after Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's in Columbus, Ohio. It's massive. It's all weekend long. It's multiple buildings.
And so is it vendors who come in and display their wares, and then you got speakers at different stages? And
there's vendors. I know they do educational stuff. Typically, the educational stuff happens early in the week. So if they're a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which they typically are, it's like on a Friday afternoon they're doing the education stuff. But yeah, think definitely vendors. But what makes people come to see the vendors is the competitions.
Oh, okay.
So that's your attraction.
And what kind of competitions?
Literally everything you can think of. Arnold has more than we do, and then I don't know if we'll go full-fledged as many as they have, but for example, our expo's got a strongman competition, which you got the big guys lifting cars and throwing sandbags. Like, it's a big deal. We have a functional fitness competition, think similar to CrossFit. We have powerlifting on one side. We have Olympic lifting on the other side. We have American Ninja Warrior stuff. We have a course happening with a competition going on with that. We have a main stage. So you have the attractions that bring in an entertainment value, get community buy-in, which you have to have entertainment. And that brings people into like, oh, I didn't know this company existed. Well, I didn't know this gym was a thing. And they actually get to go around and learn about the various businesses and in our industry, right? Learn all the fun things.
And so you've got, how many people attend this?
This year we're expecting 5,000 people.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And is it a pay for attendance, like a ticket? You got to buy a ticket. What tickets cost, or what are they going to cost?
Tickets cost $15, and in that $15, you actually get to do meet and greets. We actually have 4 celebrities coming in. We have another company that's bringing in 2 other ones, but we also pay to bring in talent like that, to do actual meet and greets. So that we'd like to say that for $15 you get
That's a deal, man.
you get the whole
It
experience.
should be a lot more expensive than
Plus
that.
you get the meet and greets, right? And that's what we want. That's the part that
You can't go to the movie for $15, man.
No,
That's crazy.
I know. This year we did something that we've been wanting to do, which is a VIP ticket. And the VIP ticket actually gets you what we call a flex pass, and that puts you ahead of the line for these meet and greets, so that you'll get to come in and meet and greet a little sooner, like Disneyland.
Exactly. Fast pass. You get in ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
Well, so how many of those have you been in charge of running?
This is our 3rd year.
24 will be your 3rd year.
Yeah, we got it. We technically have owned it for 4 years, but we took an entire year to plan the first one because we wanted to be like really sure. We didn't want to rush it. But yeah, this will be the 3rd one of this size that I've done. Now I've done smaller events that are complimentary in the event world. Like, if you can imagine, you do this on this level on this platform. Now people are like, well, can you help me with my event? So we've been fortunate enough to go and help other people kind of clean up their events and do a similar style of, business model to improve the profitability of their event.
Very good.
And the engagement.
So tell me about, you've got the retreats. What's it called?
Revive Retreats.
Yeah, Revive Retreats. What's that?
Revive Retreats is we say it's a holistic, all-inclusive wellness retreat. So it's a way to unplug. A lot of times clients have the hardest thing for them to do is to get away from the distractions, good or bad, of their life, right? If we can take them out of that, I don't know, it's just the busyness of it, and transport them somewhere that's a desirable place to go. And in the process of doing that, now you're going to eat well, right? We're going to hit your macros while you're there. We're going to do it in a way that you probably didn't think of. We're going to make some things you probably didn't know were good for you. We're going to work out, but we're also going to go play. So it starts with, in the morning, we get up, we walk, we come back, we have a great breakfast, we do a little workshop. We talk a little bit about some things, like some of the things we've already talked about, how to understand your calories, how to know your macros, how to track everything on your watch, because we're going to watch that throughout the week. And then we do, the morning is usually filled with fitness. So from about 9:30 to 11:30, there's yoga, there's foam rolling, there's a boot camp, there's a high intensity class, there's fitness on every level, anything you can think of. Lunchtime, we sit down, we have lunch together, and then we go out in the afternoon for an adventure. We're hiking, we're bike riding, we're kayaking, movement-based adventure, right? Like sometimes we'll take them shopping.
That's movement based.
It is. It is. We like to let people still feel like they're on vacation as well. So the right balance, right? Where
do you do these?
We've done them everywhere. California was the most popular location. We would do Temecula, which is Southern California's like wine country.
Right.
40 minutes outside of San Diego. So plenty of things to do, right? We do Lake Tahoe. That one was a lot of fun. Again, so many things to do. The hikes were gorgeous. We've done Jamaica. And then I think this year we're doing Tulum as well.
So when these people sign up for this, are they coming from all over the U.S., all over the country, all over North America, world? Where are they coming from?
I would say all over North America right now. We had a couple from Canada. We've pulled from Boston, literally everywhere.
And how many do you do a year?
We do right about 4 a year now. We started strong. We were like, let's do one every other month. Then we forgot.
Yeah, if somebody else planned it, it'd be great.
Then we realized how much work that is. It's like, we have families and businesses. So It's not the sole thing we do. It is a passion project for sure. Like we just love it.
Well, I know from my own experience as a coach hosting retreats, and that's a ton of work and expenses that I don't think people understand. I'm hosting a little retreat this weekend at my cabin in the mountains, and I mean the amount of energy, effort that goes into just planning. And mine's limited to 5 people. Like it's a small one.
Yeah.
But dude, that is a lot of work that it takes to put into it. Now, the best part of it is it actually delivers results, and I thoroughly enjoy putting them on. If I could pull it off, I would do one of these every month. I'd have a group of guys at my cabin, one weekend a month, every month, and I would do this. But I don't have that many people lined up wanting to do it. That's the issue.
Right,
So,
because you come. What's the you're overcoming their objections, right? The first objection is, man, that feels pricey. But what they don't understand is it's an intensive. Like you're taking you can speak to this. You're taking 4 to 6 months worth of coaching and you're cramming it into a weekend.
you got that right. That's exactly what it is.
And it costs money to do that. And that's a lot of information. And if you literally verbatim went through everything that they're being taught at your event, it would take them ahead 6 months, maybe even more than that.
Yep.
So it's just a concentrated amount of information that people need to really understand.
Yeah.
That's got a lot of value to it.
Yeah. One of my friends runs stuff. He calls it a decade in a day, which I think is a pretty interesting way to look at it. A decade's a lot of time, but the point is still made. But I know that, just through a properly run mastermind retreat, intensive retreat like we do, you're going to accomplish 6 months worth of stuff in one weekend.
I believe it.
Just the acceleration, which is why you invest. In my retreat right now, I've only got it priced at $2,500, and that includes all the accommodations and top shelf. We have a chef that comes and cooks all the food on site for us. I buy the box of top shelf cigars and bourbon, and we have a great time. But it's intense. Like when we're working, it's intense.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine. How long is your Revive retreat? How many days is that?
Most of them on average are 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
And the trick is that you have people that they're too busy to do 7 days. They may have the budget, but they don't have the time. That's a trick. That's something that you have to get over. We've done 4-day ones too, but 4-day ones are almost not enough time for them to, because you're going to do this. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is so much. This is so much. I'm so tired. And then I feel great. So by the 3rd, maybe 4th day, you're loving it. You're hitting your stride.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not even concerned about what your weight is at that point. We're definitely not letting you look. Like we're just keeping you focused on this is what balance looks like. Right. So for us, I found that 4-day mark is usually when they're like, I feel great. Right.
Yeah.
And if we can get them there, it's really hard to do that because the activity is a lot.
Well, you've done, Terry, extremely well from the outside looking in with the magazine, with the retreats, with the expo, and all the other stuff that we've talked about. What do you think is your key to this type of success? I mean, if you had to narrow it down, like this is the one thing that allowed me to be successful in this arena, what would you say it is?
I'm going to say that it's been people like you. Like what we have as personal trainers was we have access to high level entrepreneurs. We have access to high output professionals. If you pay attention, you pick up all kinds of tips on how to run your business, how to scrap, how to get things done. And you get into a creative space with a client, you can learn a ton if you pay attention. So there's that element. I was also given a very good ethic at a very good work ethic at a very young age. I mean, like I said, I started working at 16. My parents didn't take no for an answer. Everybody contributed. I think those two things are really, really, really important. So if you don't have a coach, get a coach.
That's true. And you know what? I mean, to that extent too. I mean, you look at you're a fitness coach, right? I mean, that's what you coach people in fitness. There's fitness coaches, there's finance coaches, there's business coaches, there's life coaches. I mean, you can't be at the top of your game in what you want to be top of your game in without a coach.
Right.
You look at anybody in the top of their game in their field, sports specifically, you know, the Tiger Woods, the Tom Brady's of the world, they have coaches, and they have coaches for every little thing. And why would we believe in business that we could be at the top of our game without a coach?
Exactly.
It's insane.
It's that, I mean, I feel like this is the old cliche thing, right? Like if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with someone. Like there's never been a more true statement when it comes to coaching than having a good coach, right? You want to go far, right? Like everyone wants to go far. Like the hardest thing for me in my business life was to go slow.
Yeah.
So and that challenges me to even say it, because I know that the secret sauce is having someone speak into your life, but also building an excellent team, right? Because those two things will keep you moving at a pace that you can handle and process, and you won't go so fast that you're looking back wondering where the heck your team is, right? Because they're not translating and moving with the vision because you're moving too quick, you know.
What would you say is Terry's definition of success? What does that word mean to you?
Or that's definition of success, I think, is having what I think is the currency, having control over your time, which having ability to do this or that with your family, to me, is currency. Like I love being an entrepreneur for that reason alone. Having flexibility for me to do things with my family in the middle of a day or something, being able to move around, even though you're busy and you're stressed out, and sometimes you may not all be there. To me, that's the definition of success, is being able to be around my kids, right? My family. Not necessarily a monetary, it's not a number. I can't say it's a hyper focus on just being a number, but that number leads to freedom. Then I think that's, for me, the definition of success.
By that definition, do you consider yourself successful?
Yes. Yeah, thankfully. I've turned down opportunities that impeded on my family before. It's just like that were well worth, like there were very handsome offers.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't want to be away from this.
That's right.
I understand entrepreneurs out there listening, like there is a time in your life when you're starting something up where balance feels like a dream, right? Like you're grinding 70 hours a week. The goal is to do that, to not do it, right?
Yeah.
I know I could say balance and people are like, I'm never going to find balance, because they're just in those first 2 years of their building their business, and that sucks.
Yep.
You know?
Balance is elusive. And one of the reasons it's elusive is we bought into the false idea, this dichotomy of work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is it separates life and work into two different entities, and work and life are not different entities. Life is life, and work is part of life.
Right.
You don't say play-life balance.
No.
You know, you don't say money-life balance, because money and play and work and faith, all those are part of life. And life is either balanced or it's not. And if you're spending all your time in one area, then you're not balanced.
Right.
You have to build that out from the center. And so I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
I want to give you the opportunity to talk to the audience and give a piece of advice. Like, as an entrepreneur who succeeded with Nashville Fit Magazine, then the Music City Fit Expo, your Revive retreats, all these things that you're doing are in a large way very successful. What advice would you give to an entrepreneur who also wants to achieve similar levels of success?
I would start with coaching. Like, get a coach. Like, attend a mastermind. Get vulnerable. I think everybody thinks that they're alone, that their struggle is very unique, and there very rarely is there a struggle that it's that unique.
Yeah.
Typically, someone's been where you are. Swallow your pride. Humble yourself. Get vulnerable, and get next to somebody. Surround yourself with people smarter than you. Someone told me that at such a young age, and I immediately would gravitate to people that I saw that were successful, and I would try to glean all of that information. That's probably the biggest piece of advice I have. Like, surround yourself with folks smarter than you, and don't be a douche, man. Like literally humble yourself, right? Like there is no such thing as failure, right? Only
feedback.
Only feedback. Like it's why the book's named that way, because I wanted to catch people. Like,
yeah, tell us about your book. I like the idea of what you're writing there. Tell everybody the name of it and a little bit about what it is.
I will start by saying I'm not an awesome writer. I write conversationally, so if you read this book, it's gonna feel simple, but that was the point. I wrote a book a while back called A Failure's Guide to Business Success. I'm actually in the process of revising it and adapting it to be a little fresher based on new things we've done. But the book was built as, I call it a 10-step guide for the everyday entrepreneur. There are things in that book that are just like, oh man, I wish somebody would have told me that 5 years ago, right? So I wrote it based on my experience, and my experience is plenty of pivots. I remember this 4 or 5 years ago, pivot was the term in the entrepreneurial world. Pivot. Pivot is still relevant. It still matters. If you're not successful in something, what can you learn from that thing in order to adjust, right? What's the lesson? Always looking for the lesson. If you're always looking for the lesson, there really is no failure. The book was written on that foundation. So a few testimonials in there with businesses that I've worked with and helped launch, and I spent a little time talking about my work history.
Well, you call it A Failure's Guide, so why'd you call it that?
Oh, I called it that because it's easy. I got the inspiration from the first million I ever made. Cost me $700,000. So that can feel like a failure, or you can look back and say, still net positive, right? If you could do it again, what would you change?
Yeah.
And you look back and you're like, well, I got so many regrets. It's like, well, are those regrets or are those valuable lessons? Because you may have done it in that in that time, and you look back and you're like, man, that cost a whole lot of money. Well, now next time maybe it won't cost as much money. So for me, that was reflective in the sense that I looked at my story and I was like, man, I'd like to have camped some more of that somewhere.
Yeah. So it's called A Failure's Guide to Business Success. Where can people pick it up?
They can pick it up on Amazon. It is self-published. You can just put my name in the Amazon search box and you'll see that book. And there are a couple other ones in there that are a little more fitness related. But yeah.
So it's Terry Barga, spelled B-A-R-G-A. So it doesn't sound at all like it's spelled.
No, it doesn't.
Because I called him Barga.
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah. So Terry Barga. But Terry, it's congratulations on your success, man. I'm really, I'm a fan now. I know we didn't know each other.
Yeah, not really.
But I'm a fan of what you're doing, and I appreciate you spending some time sharing a little bit about what's made you who you are.
Yeah.
And here we are sitting in Smokers Abbey in Gallatin, Tennessee, smoking some cigars on a Wednesday afternoon, and
that's great.
Enjoying it. So thank you for being here, man.
The honor's all mine. For somebody who consumes this type of content, I'm so thankful for what you're doing. So yeah, it means a lot to be here, but it also want to encourage you, like, don't stop, man. People need this stuff.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. That's the show for today. Listen to what the guy says at the end, and we'll see you next time.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the Real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.